Well, our first step that we should always start with is dialing in our stock. So I've got it in the 4-jaw, and we've already zeroed it out, and you guys can see right there that the needle's not moving, so I think we're good on that part. So to start with, our stock's about 880 thousandths, and I want to take it down to about 775, and then we're actually going to knurl the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it down to that 775 first. So come in and touch off. All right. Zero out our cross slide. Go ahead and dial in about 50 thousandths. About 30 more. Alrighty, down at the end, so stop and check real quick where we're at. Let's see what we need to take for our finish pass. Alright, we're at 803. So we need to take about 18 thousandths off. So I'm going to slow the feed rate down a little bit. Even though we're going to knurl it, actually, since we are going to knurl it, I'm going to leave it where it's at. And we'll dial in 18 thousandths. 10, 12, 14, 16. It's 18. Alright. Put it with a little WD. Since I'm going to knurl this, I'm going to go ahead and alright, so I've got my knurling tool all set up in here, so I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Probably run at about 150 RPMs. Bring the knurling tool in, touch it over center, or get it centered up, and just start slowly clamping it down as it cuts in. And instead of using normal cutting oil, I'm actually just trying to keep it lubed up pretty strong with the WD-40. So here we go. Alright, we've got it over center. Like I said, keep it lubed up good. I haven't done any calculations to try to achieve a certain size or diameter after the knurling. Basically just bringing it in until I get a good consistent cut, and I'm going to run it off the end, and we'll stop the machine and make sure our knurl looks good. Alright, and it looks like we've got a good diamond pattern going on, so I'm going to go with that, and so we'll come back in, set the knurl up, get it going again, and then we'll just engage our cross feed and just let it bring it on across. And then once it makes it across, then I'll slowly, by hand, I'll work it back the other way to come off. Here we go. Alright, and that appears to be over center. So we'll let it reestablish a little bit right there, and then we will engage our crossfeed. You guys can see right in here the knurl as it's being exposed. Try a little regular cutting oil on there. Get rid of some of that squeaking. Alright, so I actually went ahead and center drilled the end, and I'm going to end up threading, drilling and tapping this far end. This is going to be my outside end. This is going to be the end that actually slides up and over the carbon shaft. So this needs to be drilled and tapped 5/16 24. And before I drill it all the way out, since I have center drilled it, I'm just going to go ahead and drill with the proper size tap drill all the way through, so that I have the proper size hole and it's in the center, and I don't have to worry about trying to hold this later and drilling and tapping that. So we'll go ahead and run in here with our tap drill. Speed this up a little bit. A little WD-40 there. And we're gonna, the overall length on this piece is gonna be 2 inches. So I'm gonna make sure I go to at least, try to go to at least about 2 and 2.5 or so, to make sure that I have ample room, because what I'm gonna end up doing is actually running the tap down inside before I ever, hey, go ahead and tap it before I ever part the piece off. Alright, so now that we have our hole all the way through for our 5/16 by 24 thread that we're going to have on this end, I'm going to zero out using, for this drill bit, just right here off the end. I'm just going to use my, my little scale here, bring the drill bit up and just touch, zero out my DRO on my tailstock. And that's going to get me pretty close. So I only want to do, this hole needs to be 1.5 inches deep. It's not critical, so as long as I'm in the ballpark and I've still got a good 1/2 inch left on this end, which is where my my threaded rod will go that actually will screw into my bow, then I'm in good shape. So that's all I needed, was just know that I get basically right at 1.5 inches, and that'll give me plenty of length here to, when I slide up on the carbon shaft, to have plenty of glue area. So go ahead and get this drilled out to 1.5 inches. Alright, Alright, so now I'm just going to repeat the process using the 9/16 drill bit. That'll get me to, 562 or whatever it's supposed to, that works out to be. I could go ahead and go to a 5/8 and be at 625, and my goal was to hit about 640 or 641. But I'd rather just go ahead and I'm just going to use the 9/16 to get it where it needs, get it drilled out to 1.5 inches deep, and then just bore the rest out to size, and that'll give me the peace of mind knowing that I can sneak up on it as easy as I want to. So we'll do the same thing. Bring our scale in, put it on the front edge here, just touch it, zero out our DRO on our tailstock, and then we'll just go ahead and drill it out to 1.5 inches deep. Alright, we got our boring wire set up, so what we'll do is we'll come in and we'll touch off right on the face there, just ever so lightly, and then we will get our dial indicator over here, zero it out, and now what we'll do is stop the machine for this part, since this has only got a 1 inch travel. I'll run this thing into 1 inch, back it out, re-zero here, run it in till I hit 1.5 inches, or another 1/2 inch basically, which is actually not going to let me because of the pitch on the end of the drill bit. So we'll leave that where it's at, and so we know when we hit a 1/2 inch that we're at that magical 1.5 inch point. So let's go ahead and start doing some boring. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to go in and clean up that bottom where it's got all that pitch on it, where it's basically beveled from the end of the drill bit. So see where I touch. Right at 1.390. Clean up some of that. Well, there's a little bit anyways. Alright. I'll bring it in, and then we will come in and touch off of our inside here. Alright, we're just touching there. Go ahead and zero out our cross slide. I'm just going to go ahead and give it about 20 thousandths just to get a cut going and see how it's going to cut. So here we go. Don't have the biggest hole there, so I definitely don't want to load it up with chips. Alright, at this point I'm just going to check it with the calipers. No reason to get out the bore gauges yet. Just see where we're at. And we are at 607. So I'm going to go ahead and dial in about another 20. Take a cut. Alright, well, now that we're getting close, I'll go ahead and grab the bore gauge in here. Alright. And this isn't super critical, so I'm actually going to measure it with the calipers. I know most guys measure it with the so you can see there. .637. That's where we're at. Like I said, my OD on my tube is 638. So I am actually going to go ahead and I'm going to dial in 2 more thousandths. And take a cut. Alright, so with our carbon tube it's just wanting to try and start. Try this other end, it's got a fresh cut on it. Yeah, and it's right there, so we'll do just take a couple thousandths at a time and see. Yeah, I'm just going to sneak up on it there. Alright, so we're taking our final cut here. I just dialed in another thou and a half, something like that. Just to give myself a little clearance, make sure I get plenty of glue down inside there. This we're at an inch. Three, 4, 50, 465. All right. So that should do it. So now we will 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Back that out. Grab our tube. And even now our rough end goes in nicely. So that should be good clearance. Enough room for glue. Just a touch of wiggle. That's perfect. That's exactly the way you want it. Alright, well before we do any of the finishing ops out here on the outside, I'm going to go ahead and tap that hole that's deep down inside there. So you see I've got plenty of tap here to go ahead and make it through, and even then it's going to ride up on the tap wrench a little bit. So I should be able to tap it as deep as I need to, and then I can always I'll always chase it, you know, of course after I part it off and everything, so it'll booger it up a little bit just from it being parted off. So we got plenty of oil on there. Go ahead and get that in. Bring up our spring-loaded tap guide here. Alrighty. The nice thing about aluminum is it taps so easy. And this is actually a tap I've used one other time. A friend of mine gave me a bunch of taps that I don't know where he came across all of them, but they're old US manufacturer. This is an old Vermont tap back when they were actually good. Taps nice and easy. I'm going to go ahead and run it in as deep as I can before it really jams up good. It's actually starting to jam up, so I'll go ahead and back it out. And what I'll do is I'll clean out a bunch of those chips with a Q-tip before I try to get the tap back in there. Alright, well I'm going to go ahead and finish tapping this, and I'll bring you guys back for the next step. Alright, so now that I've got the inside board, I've got the end drilled and tapped, and of course I have my knurling on there. So I'm going to go ahead now and start. I'm going to end up leaving a 3-ring knurled pattern on here. And so after I knurled it, I ended up right at 0.8 inches. It was right where I needed to be. And so now I'm going to come in and I'm going to actually knock that down to 760. So I need to take about 40 thousandths off after I touch off. And to do my pattern that I'm going to end up with my 3 rings, I'm just going to use my hand wheel on my lathe here, because it doesn't need to be ultra accurate. So I'm just going to run my tool in, find the approximate edge there, and we'll zero out my hand wheel. Alright, we'll go ahead and start her up, and then we'll touch off. then we'll zero out our cross slide. Alright, we're just touching there. So we're going to go ahead and take $40,000 is what we need to take. So I'm going to dial that in, and I'm just going to cut the end here. Give me something there that I can measure and check and see if that's where I need to be. And it's looking good. It looks like it's just under the knurling or right on the edge of it. And that puts me at about 760. So yeah, I'm actually going to do about 2 more thousandths because it looks like I'm right on the edge there of the knurling. Alrighty, so we got a good starting point. So now we're just going to, like I said, do everything by hand with the hand wheel. Put WD-40 on there. Alright, for this one we're going to come over to a 1/2 inch. Back out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to re-zero my hand wheel. Move 1/4 inch. Then I'm going to run it back into my, take my 40 thousandths off that I need to. Now we're going to move another 1/4 inch. Back it out. And move another 1/4 inch. Run it back into 40 thousandths. Back it out. We're going to move another 1/4. And this time when we go in, we'll take this all the way to the end. in there is nice and clean. Cuts look good. So now we'll stop it, and we're going to put a 5-degree taper on this very end just to make it look a little bit more aesthetic there. So I'm going to go ahead and set the compound for that, and I'll bring you right back. Alright, so I've got my compound set at 5 degrees. Next time I'm going to put just a little bit of taper here on the end, and about 1/4 of an inch worth is where I want the taper to end up. So we'll go ahead and get started. We'll get the machine turned on. Down here we'll touch off, and we'll lock down the saddle here so it won't move. Lock it in place until we see it. All right, just touched off there. And then this is not exact, so I'm just going to run it in about 20 thousandths, and then we're going to take our cut. Like I said, this is just a decorative bevel or taper. And basically I just want it to be halfway from the end to the pattern. And I'm just going to move it in and take a little cut until it looks about right. And that's actually pretty close, so I'm going to take maybe just another couple thousandths. See where that ends up right there. Alright, I don't know if you guys can see it in the camera, but my bevel ends right there in the, halfway between the end and the pattern. So we're going to call that good. And we're just going to chamfer those edges just a hair there. And then I'll take a bit of sandpaper, hit the end one. And now we'll go ahead and get set up. We'll part it off. Alright, well now that we have both of our end caps machined and prepped, and both of them fit nicely right on there. Good fit. Now we need to cut the shaft to length. I want a 12-inch long finish stabilizer. So accounting for the 1/2 inch of thread on each end, I'm going to cut the shaft at 11 inches. So it doesn't have to be exact. Mark it at 11. And I'm going to cut it off with my Dremel with a cutoff wheel. So we'll just wrap the shaft here with some masking tape, just to give myself a good line to work around. I mean, this cut isn't critical by any means, but still makes it easy to follow when you've got the tape. So we got our tape there. We'll go ahead and cut. And the big thing with this carbon fiber, always, always, always wear your dust mask. You do not want to breathe in this stuff. It is nasty. All right. So I got my mask on. All right. Here we go. it's time to glue these up. For this, I'm just going to use the JB Quick Weld. JB Weld's fine. You can even use the typical just 2-part epoxies. As long as it's good high strength epoxy, it should work. But I've had good luck with this with the JB Quick, so that's what I'm going to use. Got a little hard chunk in it. Get that out of there. You really don't need that much because there's only so much area between the diameter of the tube and the carbon shaft. You still want to mix up enough that you don't run short, because once this stuff starts to set, that's it. Alright, that is the hardener. And this is actually the steel. They're labeled, so. It's just a simple 1-to-1 mixture. Alright. And whatever you use for a mixing rod, I suggest it be disposable. So I'm just using a Q-tip that I cut the head off of. Now when you start to glue this up, the thing you don't want to do is to get glue down inside those threads that we tapped, because that is where your threaded rod is going to go that will actually allow the stabilizer to screw into the bow. So you just want to make sure you don't get glue down in that. Alright. What I like to do is just take a little bit, put it down in kind of low. Same thing. Just kind of coat the inside of it. And it doesn't have to be a heavy coat, because like I said, there's not a lot of room in there, and the majority of it is going to get squeezed out. Alright, I like to just put a little bit right at the end here of our shaft. And as you insert it, it's a good idea to twist it. Make sure all that glue gets evenly distributed all the way around. And you just push it in all the way until it seats. Wipe off your excess. Some more Q-tips here. And we'll get the other one in real quick, and then we'll wipe the outside down with some acetone. Just to make sure we've got